to our last tool as well, which is our machine learning engine. So what I'm showing you now so far has been generating data and enriching it, and it could really go into any place, and you kind of know either what your ideal customer profile looks like or what enriched data you want to consume. But our machine learning engine will add that layer of AI and will actually pull in all of the data and do the automation for you. So moving over to our prediction tab here, you can see some of our sample projects that some of you may have seen in our free trial. So today we're going to look at our consumer lead scoring demo, just to show you, to continue the story, since we've shown how to generate leads at first and then enrich those leads with lots of attributes, and now actually how you can use Explorium to build a lead scoring model and feed those leads into our engine and constantly prioritize your marketing efforts better. So here I picked consumer lead scoring so we can showcase some of our consumer data points as well, since we have a lot of information on them as well, spanning from education and employment histories to behavioral data like spending and credit and all that good stuff. And so here what we're looking at is just a list of individuals and some key information about them, again, for us to do our matching. So on the individual side, some common things we can match against to unlock our external data are things like an individual's first and last name, their email address, their phone number, location information like address, city, state, zip, for example. And then you'll notice that in addition here, we also have a column that is labeled as our target variable. And so this is something we'd like to predict. So in this particular demo, I'm showing you a lead scoring model. So we're predicting whether or not a certain individual is actually a good quality lead or not. So it's a true or false classification problem. Our engine, however, can predict both regression and like a continuous output and binary or multi-classification problems. So a lot of our customers will be building like customer lifetime value or pricing models in our engine as well. So the last thing I'll mention in this tab, which is the internal data tab where the customer has their own data, is you can also pass us more information, not just columns for us to do our external data matching. So you can actually put in any internal variable. So maybe on the lead scoring, you want to put the source that the lead came from, or has this particular individual signed up for your emails, or any kind of internal variable that you might have can be put into our engine. And then our machine learning models are actually going to tease out if it's relevant or not. So once the internal data is in the engine, you can move over to our engine tab, which is where all of the models are trained and all of the magic happens. So in the top left-hand corner, you're first specifying what column it is you'd like to predict. So again, for this particular demo, we're predicting, is this person a good quality lead or not? What's their likelihood to be a good lead, and how can I prioritize better? So you'll see these same data types are being displayed under each of the columns, and it's the same way that the enrichment was done earlier, except now instead of you picking which columns you want to enhance your data set with, we're just automatically going to enhance it with everything we have, and then train and test the models and let the models decide what's predictive. So you can actually just hit our play button, and what's going to happen is we are going to go through this process that I'll walk you through, where we're essentially extracting data sets the same way that you saw earlier in our enrichment tool. But then we're also going to be pulling features out of those data sets, generating our own features, and then near the end of the process, you're going to see we're going to begin training and testing models that we can actually compare and evaluate and potentially even deploy. So you'll see on the left-hand side here, as the engine is going, we're extracting our data sources. So for example, we're pulling information on an individual's banking behaviors, their technology habits, demographic information about them, location information like coronavirus spread and crime statistics, for example. So really, so far we've got 31 different data sets that we've extracted. This will get to a much higher number, but we're pulling in anything we have in our catalog that could potentially be predictive in a model. And so you'll see that these data sets, they're not just kind of there for you to browse as they were in our enrichment tool, but you'll see next to them, we actually have scores. And so what we're doing is we are taking every data set and we're scoring and ranking it against this target variable for its relevance. So these are correlation-based scores. And you can actually see as the engine is running, what data sets are highly correlated to whether or not a person's going to be a good lead. And so you can really quickly identify external data sets that might be relevant for your use case. So for example, individual credit data and demographic information seem to be piling at the top so far. So within each data source, we're actually generating a bunch of features. So the middle pane are all of the features that we are pulling back. So it's not just the columns you saw earlier, but we also have another layer of feature extraction and feature engineering that is happening. So we are doing interactions and Python-based creatives and all this complex stuff to generate this large pool of, so far, what is over 1,000 features to potentially include in the models. So you can see here some information that's predictive. So an individual's economic stability, for example, wealth information, as well as marital status, might be indicative of whether or not a particular person is a good quality lead for this company. So you can actually click on all of the different features, and within each feature, see the distribution as well as the relationship with the target variable. So here we're looking at an individual's likelihood of purchasing upscale or high-end apparel. And so you can see their likelihood is from 1 to 6, and you can see the distribution as well as how that is in relation to whether or not this person might be a high-quality lead. So all of the features are scored with correlations as well as the data sources, and you can kind of come in here and identify what external data is useful for your problem. And then on the right-hand side, we are training and testing a wide library of models. So for a classification problem, this is anything from a basic logistic regression model, a decision tree, random forest, all the way up to more state-of-the-art like XGBoost and CatBoost algorithms. And so it's all configurable in terms of what you want to try. But essentially, what you can see are all of the models that we trained and test, and click on one of them. So we're clicking on here the top performing model out of the 25 we trained and tested, and you'll see that once you click on the model, the middle pane changes from all of the features we generated, which was over 1,000, to just the features that were included in that particular model. So you can actually see the scores change to important scores. So we can now see how much predictive weight does that particular feature have. And then ultimately, now that our engine has completely finished running, as you see, it's really quick to actually train some very good models. What we're displaying for our customers at the top is the amount of value that they are getting from using Explorium's external data for their problem. So for those of you who aren't familiar with AUC scores, it's essentially just an accuracy score for a classification problem. It's how well is the model predicting a person as a good quality lead or not into the right class. And so we're taking the highest AUC score from our top model, and then we're running that same score on just the data that the customer has internally. So anything that was in that internal data tab I showed earlier. And then we're just doing a direct comparison of those two numbers to see the amount of uplift you're seeing in model accuracy from using Explorium's data. So why this is so powerful is because a lot of our customers, they find in the past, they've gone out and spent a very lengthy amount of time, sometimes months long, to evaluate vendors, find the right ones, get samples, clean the data, and then they actually get it into their environments and they realize that the data actually doesn't have any uplift in their models. And so what our platform is doing is really shortening that time to value. So you can really quickly see for your particular use case, is external data going to move the needle? And if so, what external data should I be using? So our customers really like to test out their hypotheses in our engine and see how much uplift they can get in their models. So there's a lot of configurable options in our engine as well in terms of generating your own feature lists, for example. You can also blacklist features. I'm sure a lot of you have played around in our free trial with this. So that you can really customize it. A lot of data scientists love to come in here and fine tune the models. You can fine tune the hyperparameters, for example. You can play around, if you're a data scientist, with a confusion matrix and set your threshold, see how it affects your performance metrics, for example. As well as play around with how many features to include in the model, what type of feature selection to do, which models to run. Some of our customers think that, the more advanced models, they're not as easy to interpret, so they'd rather just run a basic regression model. So you really have a ton of different options in this environment, which we can definitely get into more if there are some data science savvy folks tuning in who are interested. But it as well as a no-code environment. So we have a lot of analysts building really good models and generating some interesting insights without having to know too much about machine learning. So ultimately, you can use this engine, as I said, to come up with feature ideas, to find out what relevant external data is going to be useful in your particular problem you're trying to solve. But you can also deploy these models. So a lot of our customers will actually favorite the models after looking through the features and doing some fine tuning, and they'll actually want to deploy them and then start to make new predictions. So that's what our predictions tab is for. If our customers want to start to send us new individuals as they get applications to see whether or not they're a good lead. And so we can help them prioritize their leads as well, and not waste any time on individuals who are very likely not in their customer profile. So our predictions tab has a few different options. You're able to run a batch prediction, so you can add a holdout test set here. You as well can use our real-time API, as I showed you with the enrichment tool, so you can continuously send us new predictions at whatever schedule you'd like. And then finally, we also have the same option for our integrations if you want to push predictions back to those integration locations like Salesforce, for example, or Google BigQuery.